everyone, welcome to another Banned, Challenged, and Burned, where I look at books frequently subjected to challenges and bans in libraries, both school and public. Today I am revisiting Jay Asher's 13 Reasons Why. Why? Because my initial notes were languishing in my notebook for so long and annoying me every time I looked at them that I just finally decided to go ahead and do it. I've already given some thoughts on 13 Reasons Why in a previous video. You can check that out if you'd like. This video is more about the whos and the whys for certain people challenging. So, without further ado, let's begin. 13 Reasons Why talks about the subjects of suicide and some sexual assault. This may not be the video for you. If you're having a bad day, thank you for clicking on this video, but you don't have to stay. I won't be offended. Always remember that you are appreciated. Now, on with the video. So again, the book being challenged is 13 Reasons Why. 13 Reasons Why is the first published novel by American author Jay Asher, published in 2007. It was a New York Times bestseller for a combined 22 weeks. The novel is about high schooler Hannah Baker, as witnessed and heard by her schoolmate Clay Jensen. It's complicated. At the beginning, we learn that Hannah is dead by her own hand, but before doing so, she recorded on cassette tapes her 13 reasons she chose to end her life and the people connected to those reasons. The 7 cassettes her message is recorded on are mailed to those people one at a time, beginning with the first person, the first reason. Clay is one of them, and we follow him over the course of an evening into night as he listens and remembers and relives his own memories and mistakes with Hannah. The novel is an extreme example of how words, especially, can have a lasting and psychological impact, damaging impact, on a person, even to the point of them taking drastic actions when those words are damaging and hurtful and their effects ignored. 13 Reasons Why has been the subject of many challenges and bans in schools since its publication. In fact, it ranked number 3 on American Library Association's Top 100 for 2010 to 2019. I have already talked about the number 1 on that list. And much like the number 1 holder for the last decade, it took a little while for the complaints to break into the top 10 positions. It ranked number 3 in 2012 and returned to ALA's top in 2017 in the number 1 spot. This also happens to coincide with the release of the Netflix adaptation of the novel. In 2018, it dropped to number 6 and has not been in the top 10 since. So, who again are challenging this book? Well, it's a lot of the usual contenders. Various school districts, school administrators, school curriculum directors, parents, from middle school superintendents. There are also concerns issued by school psychologists and mental health professionals, a lot of which, again, have been coinciding with the Netflix adaptation. Most publicized challenges for the novel that I could find came after the Netflix series launched, making it extremely difficult and frustrating to separate book and film challenges and bans. Here's just a few instances. 2017, Mesa County, Colorado school districts removed the novel from shelves because of recent teen suicides in their community. There's no evidence or proof of connection to the novel or the series. 2017 also, banned in Ontario, Canada, and it also mentioned the Netflix series. 2017 in Florida, Stone Lake Elementary School banned students from bringing their own copies into school. In 2021, Polk County, Florida schools pulled it for review after a complaint from CDF, Citizens Defending Freedom, a group about upholding freedom by wanting to take away young people's freedom to read. 2022, also in Florida, Walton County Public School Libraries. One of the most recent ones from what I'm assuming is Harrisonburg, Virginia, Rockingham County, September. This month. Yeah, I didn't see much for details, but So, what are the reasons given for the ban? There are 4 major reasons, and those are: 1, contains drug and alcohol use and smoking. 2, it is sexually explicit, some going as far as calling it pornography. 3, addresses teen suicide while failing to address mental illness. And 4, unsuited for age group. So, again, some of the usual complaints. So where in the text could these people be finding reasons to complain? Well, let's start with the drugs and alcohol complaint. Drugs, alcohol, and smoking. Must not forget the smoking. This one is a standard for many modern challenges and bans going back for decades. And for fiction geared for young adults, underage teenage drinking seems almost cliche. Almost. Underage drinking in the US is a problem in reality, not just in literature. Some of the research I found, this might be higher in the last few years, but a 2021 survey from the National Survey on Drugs and Health by NIH, 20.9% of youths aged 14 to 15 reported having at least 1 drink in their lifetime. Also, 5.9 million youths ages 12 through 20 reported drinking alcohol beyond a few sips in the past month of the survey. So underage drinking is a reality. By showing it and its consequences in literature may help deter a young person from drinking, or at least prepare them in the event they are offered a drink and decide they want to, or don't want to. Or at the very least, it offers an important discussion for young people and their parents or their peers, especially since 3 of those consequences play a major factor in this novel. What 3 consequences? Well, alcohol-related vehicle crashes and collisions, physical and sexual violence, and increasing the risk of suicide. Example. Alright, this is page 243. At the intersection where Tony turned left, I take a right. It's still 2 blocks away, but I know it's there. The stop sign. You shut your eyes and said, "Hannah, I'm not drunk." Well, I didn't accuse you of being drunk, Jenny, but I was wondering why the hell you couldn't keep your car on the road. And she goes on to describe a missed stop sign and a collision with a person. Okay, let's see, 223, just a little bit before that. Sue's number 2 is that things seem to be winding down up there. Not only was she drunk and clumsy, she seemed to be completely unresponsive. From what I could tell, it didn't go much beyond kissing, and it seemed to be one-sided kissing at that. So, incoherent girl getting kissed by equally drunk boy. Again, nice guy that he was, he didn't take advantage of the situation. He wanted to. He tried for the longest time to get a reaction out of her. And the resulting assault by a different character that follows on page 225. The whole situation is rather gross. But then again, hormonal teenagers drinking in unsupervised parties, which I assume happen. I don't know. I was never invited to any. 207, but they were harmless. Fun drunks make a nice addition to any party. Not looking to fight, not looking to score, just looking to get drunk and laugh. Anyway, you looked at my empty cup, poured half of your drink into mine, and asked if now would be a good time to talk. But don't read into that, people. Yes, it sounds all smooth and get the girl drunk, but it wasn't. It didn't seem that way to me. It's Hannah speaking. 115, a little farther back. Tyler protested the whole way, thinking I wanted him to take a picture of the keg pool. They'll never print it, he said. You know, underage drinking. Right. Why would they want a yearbook that showed actual student life? So yeah, underage drinking is shown. Underage drinking is a problem. And before parents complain about teens reading about drinking in a novel, perhaps they should think about how and where their teen might get alcohol. Now, I couldn't find any instance of smoking at all in this novel. It may be I overlooked it somewhere. The only reference to drugs was Hannah saying she'd decided on pills. Alright, so reason number 2, the sexually explicit pornographic complaint. So Jay Asher did an interview with PBS. I believe this was in 2017. It was published September 28th, 2017. An interview with NewsHour, published by PBS. Jay Asher said about one scene in particular that a lot of people have an issue with is the hot tub scene where Hannah is sexually assaulted. In both the book and the TV show, I don't have Hannah say no. Boys are taught to no means no. But quite often in those situations, a girl is afraid to say no. I wrote that scene with boys in mind. I wanted them to know sexual assault is wrong no matter what. And that one scene, that one singular scene, is invariably the reason for that particular complaint. It is detailed in certain parts to make the reader extremely uncomfortable, also frustrated and angry that it's even happening. That is the point. Let me clarify more. No human anatomical parts below the waist are described, mentioned by name at all. Nothing. And before anyone calls it out. The other scene of an assault that Hannah is sort of a witness to, while cowering in a closet, eyes closed, ears covered, has nothing described beyond a bed creak. I think it's fairly clear that Jay Asher considered and reconsidered what he put to the page and did it in a way to make a point, and used it in a way that makes sense for this story. The first 2 times Hannah is inappropriately touched, she reacts appropriately. But there is a snowball effect that she describes. So when it first happens, she yells at the guy who did it. When it gets to the end, things are a lot different. But with the calming water also came terror. I should not be here. I didn't trust Courtney. I didn't trust Bryce. No matter what their original intentions, I knew them each well enough not to trust them for long. And I was right not to trust them. But I was done. I was through fighting. Goes on to more. Lads, why? Again, if this novel were truly explicit like this one, then everything would be detailed. This novel leaves everything to the reader's imagination. Next up, number 3. Addresses teen suicide, doesn't address mental illness. Suicide is complicated, and discussing it thoughtfully is just as complicated, especially when it comes to this story. This story is about a girl who has killed herself and leaves behind her 13 reasons for making that decision. It is a cycle of harassment, bullying, stress, neglect, and abuse that begins with an innocent kiss. No, a rumor based on a kiss ruined a memory that I hoped would be special. A rumor based on a kiss started a reputation that other people believed in and reacted to, and sometimes a rumor based on a kiss has a snowball effect. A rumor based on a kiss is just the beginning. And what else does the character have to say? Like driving along a bumpy road and losing control of the steering wheel, tossing you just a tad off the road. The wheels kick up some dirt, but you're able to pull it back. Yet no matter how tightly you grip the wheel, no matter how hard you try to drive straight, something keeps jerking you to the side. You have so little control over anything anymore, and at some point the struggle becomes too much, too tiring, and you consider letting go, allowing tragedy, or whatever, to happen. Snowball. I'm sure the school had psychologists coming in loaded with handouts telling you what to look for in students who might be considering ... Another pause. No, like I said before, I can't say it. And Clay says, suicide, such a disgusting word. So I did just that. I wrote a note to Mrs. Bradley that read, suicide, it's something I've been thinking about. Not too seriously, but I have been thinking about it. That's the note, word for word, and I know it's word for word because I wrote it dozens of times before delivering it. I'd write it, throw it away, write it, crumple it up, throw it away. 172. For 10 minutes or so, Mrs. Bradley rattled off statistics, local statistics. That surprised us all, because we're juveniles. She said as long as the suicide didn't occur in a public place with witnesses, they probably wouldn't report it in the news. And no parent wants people to know what their child, the child they raised, took this or her own life. So people are oftentimes led to believe it was an accident. The downside being that no one knows what's really going on with the people in their community. Before the party, I'd thought about giving up so many times. I don't know, maybe some people are just preconditioned to think about it more than others, because every time something bad happened, I thought about it. A story about suicide is going to address suicide. Nowhere in the novel is her suicide described at all, no details whatsoever, aside from pills. And while it's true, mental illness is not addressed, that is because A. Hannah is a rather unreliable narrator and doesn't reveal any diagnosis she may have to us, nor are there any conversations featured with her parents or any doctors. The information we get from her is what she discloses to the listeners of the tapes and us, the reader. B. This is a story of an extreme case of no one paying attention to the signs of any problems, nor taking her seriously when she attempts to bring attention to them, because C. Hannah is a high school student, unqualified to diagnose it herself, and has parents who are, by Hannah's account, distant and wrapped up in their work problems. And as I said before, she is, as a result, an unreliable narrator. And again, we have a relatively neglected teenage perspective under extreme circumstances. Plus, you don't need a diagnosis to need help. That being said, I do completely understand the concern. Hearing, reading, or seeing stories, fiction or non-fiction, talking about or depicting suicide, in some cases can be a serious risk factor for suicide. For some people, even personally knowing someone who has committed suicide can be a risk. Real world example, May 18th, 2017, singer Chris Cornell took his own life. 2 months later, his friend, singer for Linkin Park, Chester Bennington, took his own life. There are many risk factors, and mental illness is only one of them. Like I said, a lot of the complaints for this novel and this topic came up with complaints the same time as the Netflix series dropped. And number 4, unsuited to age group. Another popular one. A book about adolescence, written for adolescents, should be read by adolescents. Am I correct? Ages and time are not clearly mentioned in the novel. The youngest age reference for Hannah is high school freshman, so that's about 13 or 14 years old. And from Clay, we know she had a part-time job, so we can assume Hannah was maybe 16 or 17 by the end. Adolescent ranges from age 10 to 19 years. The novel is classified as young adult. A young adult is given an age range of late teens to early 20s, so about 17, 18 to 26. Young adult fiction is written for individuals in the age range 12 to 18. Tying in with the novel subject of suicide, the age range health professionals look at for young people are ages 10 to 24. Sounds to me like this novel is well within the age group. However, like with many novels out there, it is true some young people might not be emotionally ready to read this novel. But how will they know unless they are given the choice? There are some comments and reviews on Goodreads that I saw that speak volumes to the character of the novel. Some people love it, some people despise it. Some people it helped, some people were frustrated by it. I would say, if you're concerned about the age group, if you're a concerned parent, it is definitely worth reading alongside your teenager. So if they do have questions, you can answer them. Was there any backlash to the banning and challenging? Well, the challenge in Mesa County in 2017 didn't last long, about 3 hours, as it was pretty pointless considering all the copies of the novel were checked out at the time, and libraries protested the removal order as well. Of note, at least one complaint was for the show, not the novel. With regards to the elementary school banning personal copies of 13 Reasons Why, the National Coalition Against Censorship and 5 other groups criticized the decision, stating that the First Amendment protects students' right to receive and possess literature as long as the books in question do not cause disruption to the educational process. Also, given the timing, I suspect the Netflix series prompted that particular ban. Actually, the fact that 13 Reasons Why was given an adaptation could be a bit of could be considered a spectacular backlash. That also caused backlash of its own. I suppose this could be considered a sort of backlash to the novel and TV series. It took me a while, but I managed to see there was a lot of research that went into the subjects of mental health, bullying, suicide and suicide contagion, psychosocial developmental behaviors, media representation of all of this, sexual objectification, and probably more topics that I would have to read mountains of articles to find. So essentially, sparking those difficult conversations within the healthcare fields. A win for everyone. And author response. Well, I refer to the NewsHour interview again. This was in response to being told that his book was the 3rd most challenged book of 2012. Jay Asher said, "A lot of authors see their book being banned or challenged as a badge of honor, but for me it's nothing but frustrating and upsetting. I hear from readers and now viewers of the Netflix show that my work encouraged them to ask for help or reach out to someone about the situation they're in. When you hear stories like that on a daily basis and then hear adults call for your work to be banned, it's proof of why the stigma around these issues is so dangerous." Challenging 13 Reasons Why was not a badge of honor, but a reason, I think, why teens have so much trouble opening up to adults. If we say issues of teen suicide, drinking, sex, or sexual assault are inappropriate, we're telling teens who may identify with those themes that there isn't a safe space for them. Whether he knew it would be challenged. I did. I knew it was going to be pulled from libraries and contested at schools. But the thing about my book is that a lot of people stumble upon it. But when it's not on shelves, people can't do that. Libraries, to me, are safe spaces, and if young readers can't explore the themes in my book there, where can they? And Jay Asher is rightfully defending his novel, and to a degree the Netflix series. At least the first season, I would assume. Some final thoughts. I have to say, of the banned and challenged books I've read over the years, and for this channel especially, this is one that I didn't really like reading. Not in the least. Don't get me wrong. For what it is, it's an okay novel with an important subject matter. I am not in the target audience for this novel at all. All the time I have spent preparing this video, researching, pulling quotes, the more frustrated I've gotten, which is one of the reasons why it has taken me so long to do this. In my 13 Thoughts video, I compared it to my reading experience of The Scarlet Letter and The Catcher in the Rye in high school. High expectations, lots of annoyance and frustration, and lots of letdown with the flaws in the execution. So, 13 Reasons Why is in good company there. Again, good ideas, important topics, deserving discussion, relevant to the current generation of students, and an intriguing gimmick in the 7 tapes, and it's those tapes that frustrated me the most. See, that 13 Reasons video for that rant. Long story short, it is a gimmick that took me out of the story on many occasions, canceling any emotional response I may have had or connections to the story or characters that I could have had. That was just my personal experience. I am, again, not in the target audience, nor would I have willingly gone out of my way to read this novel had it not been banned and challenged. I contemplated watching the series for a hot second and decided, no, I'm not going to spend money on something that I have no interest in watching, not even for research. So, again, why is 13 Reasons Why the third most challenged book of the last decade? 1. The ever-evolving landscape of mental health, how it's perceived, treated, talked about, and how it's researched in popular media. 2. The Netflix adaptation. I can't help but wonder if this novel would have been so heavily challenged if not for what Netflix did with it. Considering it took about 5 years to break into ALA's yearly top 10, and it took another 5 the same year after airing to hit number 1. Maybe not. It probably would have been just one of those edgy hit novels that started the top 20 lists periodically. 3. Education. There are teachers out there who want to teach more contemporary and relevant books to their students. Makes sense to me. I have had a grandmother who was a school teacher in the 1950s and 60s, and she taught The Catcher in the Rye in school. Contemporary and controversial for its time, and now a classroom staple. Is 13 Reasons Why the best example for a new classic for the classroom? Personally, I wouldn't choose it if I were a teacher, unless I had students that showed an interest in it. Does 13 Reasons Why deserve to be banned? Of course not. It deserves to be read with caution and sympathy for its topic, and an understanding that it is presenting its topic in an extreme way. It will likely continue to be challenged until something better comes to take its place. And that's that. I can finally put 13 Reasons Why back on the shelf. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, the best way to let me know is to hit that like button. And of course, if you want to see more from me, subscribe. You'll be notified when those new videos come out. Last but certainly not least, down in the description, I'm going to leave some helpful links. If you are someone or know someone who might need them, please share them. I promise the next Banned, Challenged, and Burned video is not going to be quite so heavy. Thanks for watching again. Take care.